You've probably heard that a calorie is a calorie, that 500 calories of rice and 500 calories of olive oil are the same thing to your body, that if you eat less and move more, the math just works. That's not how your liver sees it. Your liver doesn't count calories, it reads signals. And based on those signals, what you ate, when you ate it, and what your hormones are doing, it makes a decision in real time. Does this become energy or does this become fat? The same 500 calories can lead to completely different outcomes in your body depending on what form they came in, what your insulin levels are doing, and whether your liver's short-term tanks are already full. Today, we're going inside your liver to show you exactly how that decision gets made and what you can do to tip the outcome in your favor. Part 1. The sorting office of the body. Your liver is the most metabolically active organ you have. It receives everything you absorb from food, every gram of glucose, every fat particle, every amino acid, before the rest of your body gets access to it. Think of it as a sorting office sitting between your gut and the rest of your body, deciding what gets used now, what gets stored short term, and what gets packed up and shipped out as fat. It does this through a set of metabolic pathways that are constantly reading your internal environment, your blood sugar levels, your insulin levels, your energy demands, and switching between modes based on what the signals say. The liver's first priority is always immediate survival. It keeps your blood glucose stable. It keeps your brain fueled. It keeps your muscles ready to move. Long-term storage, body fat, only happens when those immediate needs have been met. But here's where modern eating patterns create a problem. When you eat frequently, eat large amounts, and eat foods that spike insulin repeatedly, you keep your liver permanently in sorting mode, constantly receiving more fuel than it needs for immediate survival, and forced to deal with the overflow. Part 2. The glycogen gas tank. When glucose arrives in your liver after a meal, the first thing it does is refill a short-term energy reserve called glycogen. Glycogen is your body's battery, rapidly accessible, fuel stored directly in the liver and muscles, ready to be released the moment your blood sugar dips or your muscles need energy fast. Your liver can store roughly 100 grams of glycogen. Your muscles together can hold around 400 grams. That's about 2,000 calories worth of short-term energy, enough to fuel roughly 90 minutes of intense exercise or a full day of normal activity. When you eat a balanced meal and your glycogen stores have space, glucose flows in, refills the tank, and the system works beautifully. Blood sugar rises modestly, insulin is released in proportion, glycogen is replenished, and the excess is minimal. But here's the critical point. Your glycogen tanks have a fixed physical limit. They can't expand. Once the liver and muscles are full, and in most people eating modern diets they often already are, any additional glucose coming in has nowhere to go. This is the overflow state. Your liver now has more fuel arriving than it can store as glycogen, and it faces a choice: burn it immediately or convert it into something else. Part 3. The lipogenesis factory. When the glycogen tanks are full and glucose keeps arriving, your liver activates a process called de novo lipogenesis. In plain language, it starts making new fat from scratch. De novo lipogenesis, DNL for short, is the liver's way of dealing with caloric overflow. It takes excess glucose and, in some cases, excess fructose and alcohol, and converts them into fatty acid chains, new fat molecules that didn't exist before you ate that meal. Fructose is particularly efficient at triggering this process. Unlike glucose, which can be used by every cell in your body, fructose is almost exclusively processed by the liver. When it arrives in large amounts, as it does from sugary drinks, fruit juice, and processed snacks. The liver has no choice but to deal with it all at once, rapidly converting it into fat through DNL. This is one of the key reasons liquid sugar is so much more metabolically damaging than solid food. It bypasses the gut's normal absorption controls and floods the liver directly. Once the liver has made these new fat molecules, it doesn't keep them. It packages them into particles called VLDL, very low density lipoproteins, and ships them out into your bloodstream. These VLDL particles travel to your fat tissue, particularly around the abdomen, and deposit their cargo there. This is the direct biological pathway from a sugary drink or a large carbohydrate meal to fat storage around your waistline. Not a vague correlation, a documented biochemical chain. What makes this worse in 2026 is the combination of ultra-processed foods that are simultaneously high in refined carbohydrates, high in fructose, high in seed oils, and stripped of fiber. Each of these forces the liver toward de novo lipogenesis more aggressively. And when the liver is producing fat faster than it can ship it out, some of that fat begins accumulating inside the liver itself, the early stage of what becomes non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Part 4. The insulin gatekeeper. Everything we've just described is controlled by one hormone, insulin. Insulin is released by your pancreas every time blood glucose rises. Its job is to signal your cells, including your liver, to take in glucose and either use it or store it. In the liver, insulin acts as a master switch. When insulin is high, the liver is locked into storage mode. Glycogen gets topped up, de novo lipogenesis increases, and fat burning is completely suppressed. Your liver cannot burn fat and store fat at the same time. Insulin decides which direction the switch points. When insulin falls, during fasting, between meals, or during exercise, the liver switches into release mode. It breaks down glycogen to maintain blood sugar. It activates fat-burning pathways. It begins converting stored fatty acids into ketones for the brain. This switching ability, moving fluidly between storage mode and burning mode, is called metabolic flexibility, and it's one of the strongest markers of metabolic health. The problem for millions of people in 2026 is that their insulin never fully drops. Frequent eating, constant snacking, high carbohydrate diets, poor sleep, and chronic stress all keep insulin elevated for most of the day. When insulin is chronically elevated, the liver never gets the signal to switch into burning mode. Fat storage becomes the default. Fat burning becomes the exception. And over time, the liver itself begins to resist insulin signal, a condition called hepatic insulin resistance. The liver stops responding properly to insulin, so the pancreas produces even more. Insulin goes higher. Fat storage increases. The liver accumulates more fat. Resistance deepens. It becomes a cycle that gets harder to break the longer it runs. This is why stubborn fat, particularly the fat stored around the abdomen and organs, is so resistant to simple calorie restriction. The problem isn't the calories, it's the hormonal signal, and until that signal changes, the liver stays in storage mode regardless of what the scale says. Part 5. Optimizing the metabolic switch. The goal isn't to eat less, the goal is to change the signal. Here's what the science shows most clearly. Strategy 1. Create genuine gaps between meals. Every time you eat, insulin rises. Every time insulin rises, fat burning stops, giving your liver 4 to 6 hours between meals, with no snacking in between, allows insulin to fall far enough for the metabolic switch to begin flipping toward burning mode. This doesn't require fasting, it requires not eating constantly. Strategy 2. Reduce liquid sugar entirely. Sugary drinks, fruit juice, sweetened coffee, and alcohol are the fastest way to trigger de novo lipogenesis in the liver. They deliver fructose and glucose with no fiber, no protein, and no fat to slow absorption, flooding the liver and activating fat-making mode immediately. Strategy 3. Prioritize protein and fiber at every meal. Protein has minimal effect on insulin compared to carbohydrates. Fiber slows glucose absorption and prevents the sharp insulin spikes that lock the liver into storage mode. Together, they reduce the metabolic load on the liver after eating. Strategy 4. Use movement after meals. Your muscles are the liver's biggest ally. When muscles are active, they pull glucose directly from the bloodstream without needing insulin, reducing the liver's processing load and keeping glycogen turnover active. Even a 10-minute walk after eating measurably reduces the insulin spike that follows. Strategy 5. Support the liver directly with food. Research in 2026 continues to show that certain plant compounds significantly improve liver function and metabolic flexibility. Sulforaphane, found in broccoli and cruciferous vegetables, activates detox pathways and reduces liver inflammation. Silymarin from milk thistle has documented effects on liver cell regeneration. Choline, found in eggs and liver meat, is essential for VLDL production. Without enough choline, fat gets stuck in the liver rather than being exported. And berberine, now widely studied, has been shown to improve insulin sensitivity in the liver through pathways similar to the drug metformin. None of these are magic. They work best when layered on top of the foundational signals: fewer insulin spikes, more movement, and real gaps between meals. Let's bring it all together. Your liver is not a passive organ storing whatever arrives. It's an active decision maker, reading hormonal signals in real time, and those signals determine whether the fuel you eat becomes energy or becomes fat. Fill the glycogen tank first. Avoid overflowing it with excess sugar and refined carbs. Keep insulin low enough and long enough for the switch to flip, and give your liver the raw materials it needs to export fat rather than accumulate it. The difference between a body that stores everything and a body that burns efficiently is not willpower. It's the signal your liver receives, meal after meal, day after day. Change the signal and you change the outcome. If this episode changed the way you think about calories, fat, and your liver, subscribe to Inside Know. We go inside the human body every single week. Thank you for joining us on another journey inside the human body. This is Inside Know.